first video, we looked at some basic tips and techniques for achieving goth sound on your bass guitar. So today we're going to go a little more in depth with the pedal that I talked about yesterday, the chorus pedal, and how to set the chorus pedal to get that nice rich goth tone. As I mentioned in my previous video, you do not need a specific bass pedal, effects pedal, to play goth music. You can use a guitar chorus pedal if you so desire and you have one and you don't want to spend money on a bass one. The guitar pedals may cut a little bit of the low end off your signal. That's not always the case, but it can happen. Most guitar and bass chorus pedals are going to have a few very common knobs across every single model and make. And it's going to be a mix. This one is called effect level. There's a rate setting, and there's a depth setting. Those three are going to be pretty common across every chorus pedal, whether you're playing guitar or bass. Okay, this, as mentioned, is a specific bass chorus pedal, so Boss has included a low filter, and what that is it's also called low pass, and it will let you control how much low end is put into that chorus mix. So right now it's at 12 o'clock. I'll see if I can, I don't know if I can get the light to show down here, but if I roll it all the way off to cut, it's going to cut almost all of the low end off of the signal chain. And likewise, if I dime this pedal, I'll dime this setting right here, the low pass, it's not going to cut any bass off the low end. Now, this low pass filter has not a lot to do with getting goth tone. It's more of like, how can I make my signal a little less muddy than it might ordinarily be? Depending on what other effects you're playing with, you may want to cut some of the low end out of your signal in order to make that nice, pretty chorus sound come through a little easier. Okay, so now we're going to get into the mix level, the effects level here, the rate and chorus, and what those do and how you use those to get good goth tone. So we'll start out again just playing a little simple riff here on the guitar, on the bass guitar. This is dry. And this is affected. Right now I have everything pretty much at 12 o'clock, so here's what that sounds like. There's not a huge difference between that and this. So you can start to hear a little bit of that effect coming through. So I can change how wet that sounds by adjusting the mix knob. In this case, it's called the effect level knob. So if I dime that, you're going to hear quite a lot more of that chorus effect coming through. Again, just play a little dry here. Alright, so that's what you typically are going to want if you're wanting to play nice goth and post-punk and death rock music, is you want to have more of that effect come through. So this one is dimed. I pretty much leave my effect level dimed on the chorus pedal when I play my music. Alright, so the next setting we're going to look at, and these kind of go a little bit together right here, the rate and depth. The rate refers to, see, when you have the chorus on, you can kind of hear that little swirly noise in the background, right? So that's your rate. If I turn the rate all the way almost off, you don't really hear much swirl in it. It still sounds a little bit chorusy, but it doesn't sound very swirly. Now likewise, if we were to come and take the rate and dime it, it's going to cause that swirl effect to go really fast, and it's going to sound kind of bad. So probably not the ideal tone we're looking for post-punk and goth music. So a good setting to go for with your rate, and this is really entirely up to you. I think what I just played with the rate dimed is probably not universally not a very good sound you want, but normally you want your rate knob to be somewhere around 12 o'clock or so. You can push the rate up until it has a bit more of a thrill. You kind of have this little point in your signal there that it becomes too much. And I find that the more you have that rate pushed towards the too much end, you kind of get it sounding a bit more kind of aggressive and death rock sounding. So that right there might be appropriate if you like playing like really more aggressive and edgy kind of tone on your instrument. Typically, honestly, that's where I have mine set. It's about right there. The next knob that we're going to look at is the depth knob. And the depth knob controls not so how fast those waves go, but how deep they go and how, like, I guess, how wet they sound. So I'm going to leave my rate knob just where it is, but now I'm going to play with the depth knob all the way off. So you don't really hear much of the chorus pedal. So if we dime or put the depth knob back at 12 o'clock, so you hear a little bit more of that. Now when I dime this depth knob, it's going to sound almost, again, it's going to get to the point of being not usable. It's right on that borderline. In fact, I might want to even back off my rate just a little bit. So you want a little bit of that waver in your tone in order to have it, because you're going to be playing with other instruments, and if you have a very light effect on your chorus pedal, it may not come through as much. So I usually like to have a little bit more than you might think you need of rate and depth. So that covers the three main knobs of the chorus pedal. The effect level, which I've found pretty much I want that dimed all the time to get good goth tone. Your rate level, which is going to affect kind of the speed in which those swirls happen, and then the depth is sort of the wetness or how deep those ripples go. And typically I found for a good goth and post-punk tone, I want that mix dimed. I want my rate somewhere between 12 o'clock and 2 o'clock. And my depth knob, it really depends on the chorus pedal, but usually the depth knob, I'm going to have that pretty close to dimed, maybe to about 80% depending on the pedal. But that's going to get you a really good goth tone on a bass guitar. All right, this is a Boss ODB3 bass overdrive pedal, and we talked in my previous video about using overdrive in goth music. It is used from time to time. A common misconception is that you have to have overdrive in order to get that really aggressive goth and death rock tone, and nothing could be further from the truth. You only need a chorus pedal, and you can control your attack on your strings with your pick and your fingers and get almost the same kind of effect as using an overdrive pedal with nothing but a chorus and your fingers and your pick. That said, sometimes you want stylistically to have that little bit of overdrive in your signal chain, and this is a really good pedal for that. There are a lot of them out on the market. And as many people who will see this video will probably have a different overdrive pedal they like to use on their bass guitar, but I'm just going to show this one to give you an idea of what it sounds like. Okay, so this pedal is comes with 4 knobs, really 5 knobs. Your first knob is a level knob. This controls how much signal is fed to your amplifier. I found this pedal to be pretty sensitive. If I roll that level knob up pretty high, it overwhelms my amplifier and kind of clips the signal going into the amp, which I don't like. The next knob we have is an EQ. And so this little bitty knob on the very top, it controls how much treble and high end gets through to the signal to the amplifier. And the knob on the very bottom, kind of slide around here, controls how much low end frequency goes to the amplifier. So that's a really important when you want to dial in your tone, because you can get it to sound really trebly and kind of pins and needle-ish. And if you're going for a really hyper distorted, almost like a kind of a grindcore kind of sound, you'd almost want to like just dime your treble and make people's ears bleed. I don't really like that kind of tone for goth and death rock, so I usually roll a good bit of my highs off. The next knob here is balance, and that refers to, it's similar to the mix level on the chorus pedal we looked at, and that just controls how much of the distortion is blended in with the natural tone off the strings. I typically have this one dimed on this pedal, because when I have this on, I want to pretty much have it on all the way. The final knob controls the gain, and it's how much distortion and how much fuzz you're going to hear in your signal chain. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn my chorus pedal on, and so this is the sound we were just looking at a second ago. So I'm going to do one thing. This light is actually not on right now. I'm going to see if you can see when it's on. So I'm going to play my strings pretty hard to show you that you can get kind of a natural overdrive just with attack. So with attack, you can get kind of a really rough sounding feel to it. But you may not want to play that hard, in which case this comes into play. So so that's what that sounds like. Now if I turn my level way up, it saturates the mix quite a bit more, and depending on what other effects I have on it, it will cause my amplifier to clip a little bit, and I don't like that. So this I mentioned is the treble knob. So if I dime that, it kind of hurts my ears, and I'm pretty sure it's going to hurt your ears too. The knob below that controls how much bass you get, how much low signal. So if I cut that completely off, and we go back and dime that, so you may or may not hear that on your speakers over this phone microphone, on the microphone on my camera, but there's definitely a lot more bass there. The balance signal I mentioned is going to kind of control your blend between your dry and your distortion. So if I turn that all the way off, you're not going to hear a lot of distortion. 12 o'clock. And then dimed. And finally, we have the gain knob. The gain knob is going to control how much distortion is fed to the signal chain, how much is going to your amplifier. So right now I have mine set pretty low, because again, I kind of don't want to overwhelm with straight up distortion on my signal chain. But this is what that, you've already sound basic. I'm going to go ahead and dime this and see. So what I found is that the more of that gain you have in your mix, it kind of fills up the sound, and you may want that. There's not a wrong way to getting goth and post-punk and death rock tone. There's not a wrong way of doing it. If you add a lot of distortion into your signal chain on the bass guitar, you're not going to leave a lot of room for other instruments to shine through. That bass guitar is going to overwhelm everything. Keyboards, synthesizers, guitars, you name it. So that's personally why I like to kind of go easy on this pedal. I don't use it on every song. And the songs I do use it on, I like to have that distortion kind of measured a bit. So that's what that's all about. Distortion sounds really good with chorus, and highly recommend it to try it out. The next two pedals, the last two pedals that we're going to look at for getting goth tone, these pedals are optional. You don't really need to have them on your board, but they can be fun to use, and they might be even appropriate to use in some situations and desired. The first pedal is on the left. This is an echo pedal or delay pedal, and basically you're going to cause the signal to repeat itself for whatever length of time you want at a specific rhythm. So this particular pedal is a tap tempo, so I can come in and hold this button down, it starts flashing, and I can tap to the beat of the song with my foot, and then hold it down again, and it sets it, and that lets me get a cool, that gives me that. Now, what I found in playing post-punk and goth music with delay is that it doesn't sound as good when you're playing really low notes on your open E. It kind of doesn't really shine through as much. Using delay is really good for is gonna, when you're up on your high strings, you want to entertain, like basically play Peter Hook. So delay is really cool to use. Again, somewhat sparingly. You're not going to hurt yourself by leaving it on for other bits. It just the signal can get muddy if you're not careful. This pedal is a phaser pedal. It's not a pedal that you commonly see on bass pedal boards. Our producer dropped in some phaser effect on a little solo on one of our songs. And I liked it so much that I went out and got one to put on my board. I use it for literally probably 20 seconds of one song, but it makes that one little bit of the song, the dynamic, it sounds really cool. The phase pedal is similar to a flanger. It feels like chorus on steroids, and I guess the best way to show is here's the signal with this chorus on it. And here's phase. So it gets really, really swirly and just almost obnoxiously swirly. So there are bands who have used flange and phase on bass guitar. The Banshees might have used it. Your Funeral with I Wanna Be You, they played that on their bass guitar. So it's an effect that can be used and is used in post-punk and goth music. Just like I wouldn't use it a lot because it gets old fast in my mind. That's basically all the pedals I have to show you. The take home from all this is that there's no one way to do this music. There's no one way to do it correctly. There's lots of different ways. So you gotta kind of explore. Hopefully this has been somewhat helpful. Your main go-to pedal again is going to be your chorus pedal. And past that, you might consider getting a distortion pedal. And if you want to add in some extra stuff, a delay pedal might be fun. Some people play with reverb pedal on the bass guitar, which can be fun as well. There's lots of different ways to do it. That right there is a good place to start.